The goblet shattered the moment it slipped from her trembling fingers. Crimson wine splashed across the polished obsidian floor and soaked into the silver hem of a noble's cloak. The sound cracked through the grand hall like thunder, slicing through the music and laughter of the moon festival. Every head turned. 1,000 glowing lanterns swayed above the vaulted ceiling of the royal palace, their light reflecting across golden pillars and marble balconies where the most powerful wolves in the realm had gathered. Alphas, nobles, warriors, and council elders, all dressed in silk and power, stared down at the girl kneeling among the shards of broken glass. Laughter followed. "Look at her," one noble sneered. "The cursed Luna strikes again." Another voice rose from the crowd, sharper. "She can't even carry a tray. No wonder her alpha rejected her." The girl froze where she knelt, her fingers trembling as she tried to gather the shards before anyone cut their feet. Crimson wine stained her hands like blood. Her name was Vaeloria Nyxara, though no one in the palace bothered to use it anymore. To them, she was simply the left Luna. The one who had been cast aside. Vaeloria lowered her head, hoping the floor might swallow her whole. The laughter rolled through the hall like a cruel tide. I'm sorry," she whispered. The noble whose cloak she had stained stepped forward. His eyes glinted with cruel amusement. "You should be sorry," he said loudly enough for the entire hall to hear. "A Luna who cannot even shift into her wolf has no place among our kind." More laughter erupted. Someone from the balcony called out, "Didn't Alpha Vaerith throw her out 3 years ago?" "Yes," another answered. "Right after the moon bond ceremony failed." Pathetic. The word struck Vaeloria like a blade. Her chest tightened, but she forced herself to keep picking up the broken glass. Then the great doors of the hall opened. A cold wind swept through the chamber, carrying with it a presence so powerful that the laughter died instantly. Heavy footsteps echoed across the floor. The Alpha King had arrived. Every wolf in the hall straightened immediately. He moved through the crowd like a living storm. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Wrapped in a dark cloak embroidered with ancient silver runes. His black hair fell across a sharp, commanding face, and his eyes glowed faintly with the dangerous amber light of an alpha whose power had never been challenged. His name was Aurevion Thalrion, ruler of all wolf clans. Even the strongest alphas bowed when he passed. Vaeloria didn't dare look up. She remained on her knees, hoping he would walk past her humiliation unnoticed. But he didn't. His footsteps slowed. Then stopped. Right in front of her. The entire hall held its breath. Vaeloria felt his presence like thunder against her skin. Her pulse hammered wildly as she stared at the floor. "Please. Just walk away." But instead, the Alpha King spoke. "Look at me." His voice was deep, commanding, impossible to ignore. Vaeloria's hands shook. Slowly, she lifted her head. Their eyes met. The moment stretched. Something changed in the air. Aurevion's gaze sharpened, as if he had just discovered something impossible. He took one step closer. The scent reached him fully then. Ancient. Wild. Powerful beyond reason. His wolf surged violently inside him. "Mine." The word roared through his mind. Gasps rippled across the hall when the Alpha King suddenly dropped to one knee before the trembling servant girl. The sound of fabric against marble echoed like a thunderclap. Vaeloria's breath vanished. She whispered weakly. "Your Majesty." Aurevion's golden eyes never left hers. "I have searched for you," he said quietly, his voice carrying across the stunned hall, "for half my life." Shock exploded through the crowd. What is he doing? Why is the Alpha King kneeling? That's the rejected Luna. Vaeloria's heart pounded so violently it hurt. "You must be mistaken," she said quickly, her voice shaking. "I'm only a servant." Aurevion's gaze darkened. "No," he said firmly. His voice dropped to a low, powerful growl. "You are not." Murmurs spread like wildfire. One alpha pushed through the crowd with a mocking laugh. His silver armor gleamed beneath the lantern light. Vaeloria felt the air leave her lungs when she recognized him. Alpha Vaerith Drakarion. The man who had once been her mate. The man who had rejected her. "Well," Vaerith said loudly, his smile cruel. "This is amusing." His sharp gaze swept over Vaeloria with open contempt. "You're kneeling for her, your majesty?" he asked the king. "Surely you know who that is." Aurevion didn't move. "I know exactly who she is." Vaerith laughed. "No. I don't think you do." He pointed directly at Vaeloria. "That girl was once my Luna." The crowd leaned in eagerly. "And I rejected her." Whispers erupted again. "She could not shift," Vaerith continued mockingly. "Not once. Not even during the sacred moon bond ceremony." He folded his arms. "A Luna without a wolf is useless. Weak. Cursed." Vaeloria's hands curled tightly against the floor. The memories burned through her mind. The ceremony. The silence when nothing happened. The way Vaerith's face had twisted with disgust. His voice had echoed across the entire pack that night. "I, Alpha Vaerith Drakarion, reject Vaeloria Nyxara as my mate and Luna." The rejection had shattered her world. Now the same humiliation was happening again. Vaeloria forced herself to speak. "Please. Stop." But Vaerith only smirked. "You see, your majesty," he said to the king. "She is no Luna. She is an embarrassment." A tense silence filled the hall. Then Aurevion slowly stood. The temperature of the room seemed to drop instantly. His power rolled outward like a storm. Vaerith's smirk faltered. Aurevion's voice was quiet. Deadly quiet. "You rejected her," the king said. "Yes," Vaerith replied. Aurevion tilted his head slightly. "The greatest mistake of your life." Confusion flickered across Vaerith's face. "What?" Aurevion turned toward Vaeloria again. His gaze softened, though the power in his aura remained overwhelming. "You have hidden long enough," he said gently. Vaeloria shook her head quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." "No," she whispered desperately. "I'm nobody. You are far more than that." The tension in the hall tightened. One of the noblewomen stepped forward angrily. Her emerald gown shimmered as she pointed at Vaeloria. "This is absurd," she snapped. "That servant has no power. Everyone here knows it." Vaerith smirked again. "She's right." He leaned closer to the king. "If you doubt it, your majesty, test her." Vaeloria's stomach twisted with dread. "What do you mean?" she asked weakly. Vaerith's eyes gleamed cruelly. "Shift," he ordered. The word dropped like a stone. "Show everyone your wolf." Vaeloria's heart broke a little more. "I can't." "Exactly," Vaerith said smugly. The noblewoman crossed her arms. "This ridiculous display has gone on long enough. Guards, remove her." Two armored guards began walking toward Vaeloria. Her chest tightened with panic. "Not again. Not in front of everyone." As one guard reached for her arm, something inside her snapped. Fear exploded through her veins. The world suddenly went silent. A strange warmth ignited deep within her chest. It spread like wildfire through her body. Vaeloria gasped. What? What's happening? Her vision blurred. The guards froze. The lanterns above flickered violently. A pulse of ancient power erupted from her body. A shockwave of silver light blasted across the hall. Every wolf present staggered as an overwhelming pressure slammed into them. Several alphas dropped to their knees instantly. Gasps filled the chamber. Vaerith's eyes widened. That's impossible. Vaeloria stared at her glowing hands in horror. I didn't mean to. Her voice broke when a powerful aura surged around her again. The air vibrated with ancient energy. The wolves in the hall felt their instincts scream. Bow. Aurevion stepped forward slowly, awe flickering across his face. There it is, he whispered. The ancient power he had been searching for. The legendary force spoken of in the oldest wolf prophecies. The power of the moon sovereign Luna. And it belonged to the girl they had mocked. Vaeloria looked at him helplessly. What's happening to me? Aurevion's voice was calm. Your true power is awakening. The hall erupted into chaos. The silver light didn't fade. It spread. The pressure in the grand hall deepened until the air itself seemed to tremble. Wolves who had ruled packs for decades suddenly found their knees weakening beneath them. Several alphas crashed down onto the marble floor. Gasps and frightened whispers exploded around the chamber. What is that power? It's crushing my wolf. I can't stand. Vaeloria stared at her glowing hands in horror. I didn't mean to do this, she whispered, her voice trembling. I swear I didn't. The guards who had tried to grab her staggered backward as if struck by an invisible force. A ripple of silver energy pulsed outward from her chest again. Every wolf in the room felt it. Ancient. Commanding. Dominant. The wolves inside them stirred uneasily. Bow. The instinct rose from somewhere older than memory. Several nobles dropped their gazes instantly. Others tried to resist, but the invisible weight pressed harder. Vaerith Drakarion was one of the few still standing. But even he was struggling. Sweat beaded along his temples as his wolf snarled violently inside his mind. Impossible. His eyes burned with disbelief as he stared at Vaeloria. That power cannot belong to her, he muttered. The woman who had once been his Luna looked nothing like the timid servant he remembered. Silver light wrapped around her like moonfire. Her dark hair lifted slightly as if caught in an unseen wind, and her eyes shimmered faintly with glowing starlight. The same girl he had publicly rejected now stood at the center of a storm of ancient power. No, Vaerith growled under his breath. His pride refused to accept it. You're playing tricks, he snapped suddenly, stepping forward. Vaeloria flinched. I'm not. Enough lies. Vaerith's voice boomed across the hall. You expect us to believe this weak girl suddenly holds Alpha King level power? The crowd murmured uncertainly. Some nodded. Others looked far less convinced. Vaerith pointed accusingly at her. You're manipulating us somehow. Vaeloria shook her head quickly. I don't even know how to control it. That's convenient, he sneered. The noblewoman in the emerald gown stepped forward again, her eyes glittering with anger. This entire situation is ridiculous, she said sharply. Your Majesty, with all due respect, this servant is clearly using some forbidden magic. Vaeloria's heart dropped. I'm not. But the noblewoman ignored her. There are witches who can mimic aura pressure, she continued loudly. Surely the Alpha King will not be fooled by such deception. A murmur of agreement rippled through the nobles. Vaerith smiled coldly. You see? He said. Even the council agrees. Aurevion Thalrion had not moved. He stood a few steps away from Vaeloria, watching her carefully. His golden eyes glowed faintly with quiet intensity. The power rolling off her was unmistakable. Ancient. Royal. His wolf was utterly certain. Mate. The word echoed through his mind again. But Aurevion did not speak yet. Instead, he stepped closer. Vaeloria looked at him helplessly. "I'm scared," she whispered. His voice softened. "I know." The sincerity in his tone made her chest tighten unexpectedly. "I don't understand what's happening," she said quietly. "All my life they said I was weak. Broken." Aurevion studied her for a moment before answering. "They were wrong." Vaerith let out a sharp laugh. "Oh please." He walked closer, his boots echoing loudly across the marble. "You expect us to believe this nonsense?" His eyes burned with fury now. 3 years ago she stood before my entire pack during the moon bond ceremony, he continued loudly, addressing the hall. Every elder watched. Every warrior watched. He turned toward Vaeloria. "And what happened?" Vaeloria lowered her gaze. Silence answered. Vaerith spread his arms dramatically. "Nothing happened." Several nobles nodded. "She couldn't shift," he continued mockingly. "Not even a flicker of a wolf." The word stabbed deeper than he knew. Vaeloria's throat tightened painfully. The memory rose whether she wanted it or not. The cold wind of that ceremony night. The circle of watching wolves. The moment everyone realized something was wrong. Her wolf had never appeared. And Vaerith had looked at her with pure disgust. "You are a disgrace to this pack," he had said before rejecting her. The humiliation had nearly broken her. Now that same pain clawed its way back to the surface. "I tried," Vaeloria whispered faintly. Vaerith scoffed. "You failed." The power around her flickered violently. The lantern flames above the hall trembled again. Aurevion's gaze sharpened. "Careful," he warned quietly. Vaerith ignored him. "You always were pathetic," he said coldly to Vaeloria. "And now you're standing here pretending to be something extraordinary." Vaeloria clenched her fists. "I'm not pretending." "Oh." Vaerith leaned closer, his voice dripping with mockery. "Then prove it." Her heart skipped. "How?" "Shift." The word dropped into the silence like a blade. The hall held its breath again. Vaeloria's chest tightened painfully. "I can't." "There it is," Vaerith said loudly. "The truth." A few nobles chuckled again. "You see?" he said, turning toward Aurevion. "Your mysterious Luna cannot even summon her wolf." Vaeloria's vision blurred slightly. The old shame threatened to swallow her whole. Maybe he was right. Maybe this strange power was just a mistake. Maybe she really was broken. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the king. Aurevion's brows furrowed. "For what?" "For wasting your time." She lowered her head. "I don't belong here." The silver aura around her began fading slowly. Some of the wolves in the hall sighed with relief as the pressure weakened. Vaerith smirked triumphantly. "There we are." But Aurevion suddenly spoke. "Vaeloria." She looked up. His voice carried a quiet authority that made the entire room still again. "You are not broken." Her throat tightened. "You don't know that." "I do." "How?" Aurevion took another step closer. "Because I know what you are." The noblewoman scoffed loudly. "Oh, this should be entertaining." Vaerith folded his arms. "Go on then, your majesty." Aurevion's eyes burned with ancient certainty. "She is the moon sovereign." Silence fell so suddenly it felt like the world had stopped breathing. Several elders stiffened. One old council member whispered hoarsely, that bloodline was supposed to be extinct. Vaerith blinked. Then he burst out laughing. You cannot be serious. Aurevion did not look at him. His gaze remained fixed on Vaeloria. The Moon Sovereign bloodline carries power older than any pack, he said slowly. Vaeloria stared at him, confused. I've never heard of it. Very few have. The elderly council member stepped forward cautiously. Your Majesty. Are you saying she is the one mentioned in the prophecy? Vaerith rolled his eyes. Oh, wonderful. Now we're talking about fairy tales. But Aurevion continued calmly. The prophecy states that when the wolf clans stand on the edge of ruin, the moon sovereign Luna will rise. He gestured toward Vaeloria. And unite them. Whispers exploded across the hall. That's impossible. The prophecy was written centuries ago. Vaerith's smile vanished. You expect me to believe this servant girl is some legendary savior? His voice sharpened dangerously. No. I refuse to accept it. Vaeloria's heart raced. Wait, she said softly. Even if the prophecy is real. Why me? Aurevion's expression softened again. Because the Moon Sovereign cannot awaken without the presence of the true Alpha King. Her eyes widened slightly. And you are that Alpha King. Before she could respond, a furious roar erupted behind them. Lies. Vaerith's power exploded outward in a wave of rage. If she truly carries such power, he snarled, then let her prove it against a real alpha. Gasps filled the hall. Vaeloria stepped back nervously. What are you doing? Vaerith's eyes glowed dangerously. I'm going to expose the truth. His wolf surged forward beneath his skin. If she's truly powerful, he growled, she can survive this. Aurevion's voice turned deadly. Vaerith. Do not test me. But Vaerith had already lunged. His claws shifted mid-motion as he lunged straight toward Vaeloria. And the entire hall erupted into chaos. Vaerith's claws tore through the air as he lunged. The nobles screamed and scattered across the grand hall, silk gowns sweeping across the marble as the powerful Alpha charged straight toward Vaeloria with murderous rage burning in his eyes. You fooled them long enough. He roared. Vaeloria barely had time to gasp before his hand reached for her throat. Everything slowed. Her heart slammed violently against her ribs. I'm going to die. The thought flashed through her mind in pure terror. But before Vaerith's claws could touch her, a wall of invisible force exploded outward. A blinding surge of silver light burst from Vaeloria's body. The impact slammed into Vaerith like a hurricane. He was thrown backward across the hall. His body crashed into one of the stone pillars with a thunderous crack that shook the entire chamber. Gasps erupted everywhere. Several nobles fell to the floor in shock. Vaerith slid down the pillar, coughing violently as blood touched the corner of his lips. What was that? Someone whispered. Vaeloria stood frozen where she was. The silver aura around her had grown brighter, swirling around her like living moonlight. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. I didn't do that, she whispered in disbelief. But Aurevion stepped closer slowly, his golden eyes blazing with fierce certainty. Yes, he said quietly. You did. The wolves in the hall stared at Vaeloria as if they were seeing her for the first time. Not as a servant. Not as a rejected Luna. But as something far more dangerous. Vaerith groaned as he pushed himself up from the broken pillar. His silver armor was cracked now, and fury twisted his face into something almost monstrous. That was a trick, he growled. But his voice lacked its earlier confidence. Fear flickered in his eyes. He could feel it now. The crushing dominance radiating from Vaeloria was undeniable. Even his wolf had gone silent. You think one lucky burst of power proves anything? Vaerith spat, wiping blood from his mouth. He stepped forward again, though slower this time. Vaeloria instinctively backed away. I don't want to fight you, she said, her voice shaking. Vaerith sneered. You don't have a choice. The temperature in the hall dropped again as Aurevion moved. In a single smooth motion, the Alpha King stepped between them. His towering frame blocked Vaerith completely. You've done enough, Aurevion said coldly. Vaerith glared at him. You're protecting her now? Yes. The single word carried enough power to silence the room. Vaerith let out a bitter laugh. You're making a mistake, Your Majesty. Aurevion's gaze hardened. No. The mistake was allowing you to speak this long. The pressure of his alpha aura rolled across the chamber like a rising storm. Even the nobles along the balconies instinctively lowered their heads. But Vaerith was too proud to back down. His voice turned dangerously sharp. You're ready to throw away centuries of tradition for that girl? Aurevion did not hesitate. Yes. Shock rippled across the crowd. Vaerith stared at him in disbelief. You cannot be serious. Aurevion's voice dropped into something deeper. Something ancient. The Moon Sovereign is not bound by your traditions. Vaeloria's heart pounded as she listened. Moon Sovereign. The words still felt unreal. I don't even understand what that means, she said quietly. The elderly council member stepped forward again, his wrinkled hands trembling. It means, he said hoarsely, that you are the rarest wolf our kind has ever known. Vaeloria shook her head. That can't be true. But it is. The old man's eyes filled with awe as he studied her. Legends say the Moon Sovereign Luna commands power over every wolf in existence. The hall erupted into whispers again. Every wolf? That's impossible. Vaerith's face twisted with fury. No. He pointed angrily at Vaeloria. She cannot command me. As if to prove his point, Vaerith forced his wolf forward. His bones cracked violently as his body partially shifted. Dark fur spread across his arms as his claws lengthened again. I will not bow to a fraud. He roared. Vaeloria's heart raced faster. Please stop, she begged. But Vaerith charged again. This time faster. More desperate. His claws slashed downward toward her with brutal force. Vaeloria threw her hands up instinctively. No! The moment the word left her lips, something ancient awakened fully inside her. A blinding pillar of silver moonlight erupted from her body. The entire hall exploded with power. The floor trembled. Lanterns shattered overhead. A shockwave blasted across the chamber so violently that dozens of wolves collapsed instantly. Vaerith never even touched her. His body froze mid-lunge. Then, he dropped to his knees. A choked sound tore from his throat. His entire body trembled violently as the overwhelming dominance crushed down on him. What is this? He gasped. Vaeloria stared at him in shock. I didn't mean to. But it was too late. Every wolf in the hall was feeling it now. The instinct. The command. Bow. One by one, the nobles began falling to their knees. Even the powerful alphas along the balcony were forced down by the invisible weight. Gasps and terrified whispers filled the room. She's forcing us. I can't stand. The old council member fell to his knees with tears in his eyes. The prophecy. It's real. Vaerith struggled violently against the pressure. His pride refused to bend. But his body betrayed him. Slowly. Painfully. His head lowered. The Alpha who had once rejected her was now kneeling before her. Vaeloria's breath caught in her throat. I never wanted this, she whispered. Aurevion turned toward her. His gaze held something softer now. Something almost reverent. You were born for it. Vaeloria shook her head weakly. All my life they said I was weak. They were blind. Vaerith finally looked up from his kneeling position. Hatred burned in his eyes. This changes nothing, he rasped. Aurevion's expression turned cold. It changes everything. Vaerith laughed bitterly. You think the other Alpha clans will accept this? Aurevion's voice became dangerously quiet. They will. And if they don't? Aurevion stepped closer. Then they will answer to me. The threat hung heavily in the air. But Vaerith's smile turned cruel again. You're forgetting something, your majesty. Aurevion's eyes narrowed. What? Vaerith's gaze shifted toward Vaeloria. The prophecy also says the Moon Sovereign will rise during the Age of Ruin. A cold silence followed his words. The elderly council member's face paled. Oh no. Vaeloria looked between them nervously. What does that mean? Vaerith chuckled darkly. It means war is coming. Aurevion's expression hardened. The Shadow Clans, the old council member whispered. Vaeloria frowned. Shadow Clans? Vaerith's smile widened. You really don't know anything, do you? He leaned forward slightly despite the crushing pressure. Beyond the northern mountains lies a pack that was banished centuries ago. The tension in the hall thickened. They call themselves the Umbral Wolves. Even the name seemed to chill the room. They've been gathering strength for years, Vaerith continued. And when they return. His eyes glinted with dark satisfaction. They will tear this kingdom apart. Vaeloria's stomach twisted. Why are you telling us this? Vaerith's smile sharpened. Because they're already on their way. The great doors of the palace suddenly slammed open with a deafening crash. A bloodied royal guard stumbled inside. Your Majesty! He shouted desperately. Aurevion turned sharply. What happened? The guard dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. The northern watchtowers have fallen. Shock rippled through the hall. The Umbral Wolves. They've crossed the border. Vaeloria's heart skipped. War. Real war. And every eye in the hall slowly turned toward her. The newly awakened Moon Sovereign. The guard collapsed onto both knees, his armor scratched and smeared with blood. His chest heaved as he struggled to breathe. The northern watchtowers. They're gone, he rasped. The Umbral Wolves came out of the storm. Hundreds of them. A stunned silence swallowed the grand hall. For a moment no one moved. Then whispers erupted everywhere. The Shadow Clans. They actually returned? This cannot be happening. Vaeloria's heart pounded painfully in her chest as she looked around the room. Only minutes ago these same people had been laughing at her. Mocking her. Treating her like she was nothing. Now their eyes held fear. And many of them were looking directly at her. Aurevion's voice cut through the chaos. Report clearly. The guard forced himself to speak despite the exhaustion. They attacked before dawn. Their wolves are different, your majesty. Larger. Darker. And they move like shadows. Vaerith's bitter laughter broke through the tension. Well, he said hoarsely from his kneeling position, it seems the prophecy is unfolding faster than expected. Aurevion's golden eyes flashed dangerously. You sound pleased. Vaerith shrugged weakly. I simply find it amusing that the fate of our entire kingdom now rests on the shoulders of a girl who spent the last 3 years carrying wine trays. The insult echoed across the hall. Vaeloria felt the sting of it, but something inside her had changed. The fear was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She slowly lifted her chin. "I never asked for this," she said quietly. Vaerith snorted. "No one asked you to be weak either." Before Vaeloria could respond, Aurevion stepped forward. The Alpha King's aura surged again, heavy and commanding. "Enough." The word rolled through the hall like thunder. Vaerith fell silent. Aurevion turned toward the trembling guard. How long before the umbral wolves reached the capital? The guards swallowed hard. At their current pace. Perhaps 2 days. Gasps filled the room again. 2 days. That's impossible. Our armies are not prepared. Panic began to spread among the nobles. Some argued loudly. Others demanded immediate evacuation. Vaeloria watched them with wide eyes. This powerful gathering of alphas suddenly looked like frightened children. Aurevion's voice rose above the noise. "Silence." The command struck like lightning. The hall fell quiet instantly. Aurevion slowly turned toward Vaeloria. His gaze held both intensity and certainty. The prophecy never said the Moon Sovereign would awaken during peaceful times. Vaeloria's throat tightened. "So, the war is because of me?" "No." His answer came immediately. "The war is why you awakened." The elderly council member nodded weakly. "The legends say the Moon Sovereign appears only when our kind faces extinction." Vaeloria's chest felt heavy. Extinction. The word sounded unreal. "I don't know how to lead anyone," she whispered. Aurevion stepped closer. "You won't be alone." Vaeloria looked up at him. "Why do you trust me so much?" For the first time since he entered the hall, Aurevion smiled faintly. "Because my wolf recognized you the moment I walked into this room." Her breath caught. "What do you mean?" Aurevion's voice lowered. "The moon. Sovereign Luna cannot exist without her equal." The crowd leaned in, sensing something important. Vaeloria's heart began racing again. "And who is her equal?" she asked softly. Aurevion's golden eyes burned with quiet intensity. "The Alpha King." The hall erupted with shocked murmurs. Vaerith's face twisted with disbelief. "You're saying she's your mate?" Aurevion turned toward him slowly. "Yes." Vaerith barked out a harsh laugh. "This is madness." But Aurevion ignored him. His focus remained entirely on Vaeloria. "From the moment I sensed your power," he said gently, "my wolf knew the truth." Vaeloria's chest tightened. "All this time, I thought I was broken." "You were never broken." His voice softened. "You were waiting." Her eyes burned with unshed tears. "For what?" "For this moment." The entire hall watched in stunned silence as Aurevion extended his hand toward her. "Vaeloria Nyxara," he said clearly. His voice carried through every corner of the chamber. "Will you stand beside me?" Vaeloria hesitated. Not because she doubted him, but because she still couldn't believe the path her life had taken. Only an hour ago she had been kneeling on the floor, picking up broken glass while the nobles laughed at her. Now the Alpha King was offering her the throne. Vaerith suddenly shouted from behind them. "Don't be fools." Everyone turned toward him. "You think crowning her will save us?" He sneered. "The umbral wolves will tear through this kingdom whether she sits on the throne or not." His words stirred fear again. Some of the nobles looked uncertain. Vaeloria felt it too. Doubt creeping back into her chest. "What if he's right?" she whispered. Aurevion stepped closer. "He isn't." "How do you know?" His voice became steady and powerful. Because I believe in you. The simple word struck deeper than any prophecy. Vaeloria slowly looked around the hall. The same people who had mocked her now waited anxiously. Some of them were still kneeling under the weight of her power. Others watched with desperate hope. For the first time in her life, they needed her. Vaeloria inhaled slowly. Then she placed her hand in Aurevion's. The moment their fingers touched, a brilliant wave of silver and gold light burst outward. Gasps filled the hall. Their auras intertwined like two halves of the same storm. Power rippled across the chamber so strongly that the lantern flames roared to life again. The elderly council member fell fully to the floor. "It's done," he whispered in awe. "The bond has formed." Aurevion lifted Vaeloria's hand gently. His voice rang through the hall. "Hear me, wolves of the realm." Every eye turned toward the Alpha King. From this day forward, he declared, Vaeloria Nyxara is no servant. His gaze swept across the stunned nobles. She is no rejected Luna. Vaerith clenched his fists in fury. Aurevion's voice grew even stronger. She is the Moon Sovereign. The hall trembled under the weight of his declaration. And she stands beside me as Queen of Wolves. One by one, the nobles began bowing their heads. Then their bodies followed. Soon the entire hall was kneeling. Even the proud alphas who had once laughed at her lowered themselves to the marble floor. Vaeloria's chest filled with emotion. 3 years of humiliation. 3 years of pain. All of it led to this moment. Vaerith remained on his knees, but his eyes burned with bitter regret. "You'll regret this," he muttered. Aurevion looked down at him calmly. "No," he said. "You will." He turned away from the disgraced Alpha, and that was the moment the entire wolf realm realized their greatest mistake. They had mocked the very Luna destiny had chosen to rule them all. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more epic wolf stories just like this one. And tell me in the comments. If you were Vaeloria, would you forgive the pack that once rejected you?